Hello, you're on channel Ada Maximized, where we speak about Ada and secure and safe programming technologies. And this time I will tell you about news for April of 2023. And April starts with a joke post about exception handling in Spark. This article written by Yannick show us how Spark language could be extended to handle exception in subprogram contracts. There is corresponding RFC on the site, and this RFC marked as prototyped, and even the article tell us that this is 1st April joke. I don't know is it really work now in Spark or not. Next article was all about Spark, and Yannick Moy written about book by known researcher Rustan Lineo. This book named Program Proofs and very good for the start of learning formal proofs in programming. And the news is about that there is dedicated GitHub repository with examples from this book implemented in Spark. And if you're going to learn Spark, it could be a good idea to get this book and Spark implementation and read it in parallel. Another blog post from Adacore introduced us this new tool. It's named Adareducer, and it's created by after the C tool named C-Reduce. The idea is to simplify source code by removing some part of the program while keeping some property of the program constant. This is helps you to reduce some examples of bugs, some reproducers before you send it to the compiler writer or IDE author. There is a nice demo how this works. You see the small program that prints hello world and the Oracle script that compiles this program and search hello world in the output, and you launch the Adareducer through GNAT Studio client program and see how the program is modified and get shorter. And the result, the program is really short and just 7 lines of code. The program written in Python, it could be hard to distribute it, but the record is going to distribute it as part of GNAT Studio. So you will see this in next release, I guess. There is also sources on GitHub repository. You can try to run it yourself if you have libadalenv installed. Main news of this month, I guess, is the GCC 13 release, and if we read the changelog for Ada, it's rather terse and mention only few points. To play with it, I built this release with Align scripts and uploaded the result on my GitHub. The easiest way is to fetch my Align index and include it in your Align configuration as additional to community index. Then you will install GCC 13 with just one command, and it should work out of the box after that. There is a blog post on the forum when people discuss this release. For instance, Simon Wright published his release for macOS. At the beginning of the month, he published Intel version, and currently there is already macOS Apple Silicon M1, and besides the compiler, this release includes some extra libraries and tools. Probably to understand what the compiler, new version of compiler bring to us, it's just look at the code. I study documentation changes and hit commit history to find what new we'll have in this code, and probably we start with Ada 22 features implemented in this release, and one of this is reduce attribute. Reduce is an operation to calculate some function over the sequence of the values. Here it is the array of integers, and operation is plus. So reduce calculates sum of these numbers. Meanwhile, the prefix of the reduce could be not just a name of a container or array, it could be reduce sequence, reduce expression. It looks like an array aggregate, but you can provide for some iterator, you can provide expression. And for example, here is evaluation of square values of the list. The news is that this reducer attribute doesn't require some extension pragma, extension allowed pragma, and could be used with just enabling Ada 22. Another interesting extension related to 22 standard is the new set of cursor operation. For example, has element is operation to check if cursor points to a value or not, and before it took just one argument, the cursor itself, but now in Ada 22 it has a version with two parameters, one the container and another is cursor, and this let you use dot call for this operation, and it's handy when you have, for example, derivative type In this case, you don't need to mention package with instantiation. Currently, this is implemented in sets only, like hash set or ordered set, but not for vectors or lists. And corresponding implementation will be in further version, I guess. Third feature is about index attribute. This attribute could be applied to entry declaration to specify contracts for entry families, actually. If you never use entry families, I would advise you to search for an article on other core blog site about entry families. It's very interesting and it uses entry families to make a queue with priority. Speaking about extension of Ada language, the compiler now split extension to two subsets. One is includes only part of extension and activated with pragma extension allowed on, while if you want to activate every extension, you can use pragma extension allowed all. For example, condition return works now only with extension allowed all, but if you use only subset of extension, this will arise error, compilation error. There is corresponding command line switch GNAT-X for subset of extension, and GNAT-X 0 is for enabling every extension implemented in the language. You see the language server does not support extension yet. New compiler provides two new interesting extensions. One of them is about mixing declaration with statements. Before that, we should enclose declaration in declare begin section of the statement. But now you can just intermix statements and declaration together. It looks strange, but it's make program a bit shorter by avoiding extra lines and indentation. Another interesting extension is about string interpolation. This is extension introduce new string literal is prefixed with f key, and inside these literals there is square brackets to enclose Ada names and Ada expression. If you compile this the compiler will substitute curly brackets with corresponding values. For example, given program print us yes, this A42 and B 1/10 and some B. Compiler checks, of course, the types inside this expression and can't add integer and float in this case and notify about errors here. This is mostly all what I would like to show you in the Visual Studio Code. Read the thread on the forum on Adareducer site, and if you find new interesting feature in the compiler, you can share with the community in this forum topics. And now I'm going to share my experience with executing machine learning models in Ada. I found ONX runtime library that allows me to execute models exported from other Python toolchains, toolkits, frameworks to common representation named ONX. And currently I tried it with recognizing handwritten digits. I wrote a simple C binding to this library to execute the model from Ada. I tried to several other models like text-to-speech, and it's worked well. I'm happy that I don't need Python to work with machine learning this way. And there is also another library named libtorch. This is C++ library, and it could evaluate PyTorch models that, for example, this is time-to-speech model that I not be able to translate to ONNX, but instead I written a C++ wrapper around this library, and I'm going to try to implement text-to-speech in Ada this way also. If you're interested in this topic, please share in the comments on YouTube or the forum. And now I would like to share the update on learn.adacore.com. This time the author of this site provides a nice feature to download source code of the examples in all these courses on the site. Of course, you can run examples online in the web browser, but if you prefer to try it, experiment with it on your local machine, you can download every example and run it locally. It's very handy, I guess. And last news is about evolving GNAT academic program. This is a program to collaborate with university to teach students Ada, and now Adacore is going to make a workshop for such university. It will take place at June 21, and rather interesting talks about LibAdoLang, Spark, Visual Studio Code, and LR and community development. If you member of the GAP program, you just need to register here. If not, your university could register for GNAT Academy program. It's free. It provides good support for the teaching Ada and materials events. For instance, a new capstone program project is introduce real-world industrial projects to the university when EDUCOR engineers helps students to and the teachers with development real world project. For example, pilot project was oscilloscope with success over the network, and I guess on the workshop it will be presented also. This is all what I am going to tell you about this digest news. If you like, please subscribe, and you can join us on Telegram. I also have a Patreon account. You can donate here some help. That's all from me. See you next time.